Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's topic is high level architecture diagram for multi-tenancy UI web application. This is part 2 video. In part 1 I have completed static web app, multiple static web app with respective tenant. Let's suppose you have 4 tenant, then you can define 4 pipeline and 4 static web app you can host on the Azure, and then use for respective tenant. What here there is some improve of in this approach where I can serve single static web app for multiple tenant. It can be 3, 4 or 10. Okay, so that's why this is better approach. So this is part 2 video that is cover this diagram here. In left side you can say Keycloak configurations. In Keycloak configuration for multi-tenant, what you can do, you can have one realm, and under that you can create various role. You can define your users, and you can create the group also and associate respective user with the role and group. Now let's suppose you have 4 tenant, like for them, and 4 tenant they might be using different identity provider. So identity provider may be social login identity provider like Google, Microsoft, and LinkedIn also. And then other, it can be some of the tenant can authenticate or can use Azure AD identity provider, and some of can use Okta or SAML, OAuth, OpenID Connect. So these are the some example. So when we talk about the multi-tenancy, it means they are using different identity provider to get authentication or to store their user with the respective identity provider. Now here in this Keycloak configuration will be giving the solution to get authentication with respective identity provider of the tenant. So what we need to do, key steps, we need to create a single realm, and under that realm you can create multiple client tab respective for respective tenant, right? And then you can do their authentication workflows and their logins, and they are define their respective field themes, all those things, look and feel. So with the help of client app you can manage all those things. So when you define the multiple client app for respective tenant, then their configuration would be something like, I can give you one of the sample here, like it would be like this, where you can define the client ID. So that would be your client app name, like tech app, I can say. Realm name edu I gave, and this would be something Keycloak authority is might be something related to identity provider, which are associated to that respective client app. And other 2 attribute I'm just defining just so that I can link with their respective domain. So in this way here also you can see your client app is like something edu app, and then realm which I'm using single realm, so that's why both places realm name is common. Here I can define the authority, which would be when I configuring identity provider, then I will be getting authority, so that I can define. So this would be kind of JSON for that Keycloak configuration. However, this domain and domain URL I added so that I can map with this client app with respective domain. Now coming to back on diagram, here in diagram, once you complete this Keycloak configuration and client app configuration with multi-identity provider and multi-tenant, then you can define, whatever configuration I explain in the JSON, same configuration you can store here into storage account blob, or you can also store that into other database, maybe Cosmos or SQL, anywhere you can store, right? So in this example I'm storing that configuration is storage account blob storage. Okay, So now coming to Azure side, Azure DevOps side. So DevOps side, what we can have, you can have single repo for all tenant. I mean, your source code would be on common place. You can create a pipeline and then set up the pipeline, and then that pipeline would be hosting your static web app on Azure, right? And then um, other thing is middleware, where you can see on this top this middleware. Middleware means one web API. So that web API would read that configuration, and then accordingly, basis on the configuration, it would redirect to respective client app login, right? So let us see now uh, this flow one by step. So let's suppose this all setup is done. Here what I did, single static web app, but within that single, for that single static web app, let's suppose I have 3 tenant, then I define 3 DNS zone, DNS agency 1, DNS for agency 2, DNS for agency 3. In that way, I can define multiple domain name for respective tenant, but site static web app would be same. Just to reduce the cost, I am using static web app. You can also go with the app service or other services also based on your requirement. So let us cover this flow step by step. First step, let's suppose step number 1. Browser, I mean user can hit the domain name. Let's suppose I belongs to tenant 2. Then I can hit the URL of tenant 2. Then this will, when you hit that, then you'll be calling this middleware, okay? And then before redirecting to login page, this middleware would be invoked, and it would take domain name from the URL and then pass the domain name to the storage account, and will read the configuration of a specific domain name, which we define here in the blob storage, this format. So here this is the domain name. Basis on domain name, once this domain name will match, then you can see this configuration. This is few example of attribute, but you can have many more attribute here also. And then it will return on step number 4, right? On the step number 4, you can see client app configuration. It will return the client app configuration, which will return API. Web API will return that, and then basis on that client app configuration, your React app would be redirected to respective login of that client app, which you define into Keycloak login page, right? And then it will, after login, when user will enter user ID and password, then it will request for access to resources, right? Step number 5. And then if your user ID password all is valid, then it will grant the token, right, for that specific user in step number 6. And then once your token is, you receive the token, it means your authentication process is completed. In that way, for respective, when I hit tenant 3, then similar flow we can follow this all. Step 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, you will be getting the token for tenant 3, and you will be login with the tenant 3, and authentication would be completed for tenant 3. Similarly, if you hit, user is hitting the URL of tenant 2, then tenant 2 login would be redirected, and then authentication would be done with respective identity provider of the tenant 2, and you'll be getting the token for that tenant, specific tenant from respective identity provider. In this way, you can manage your multi-tenancy UI app for multi-tenant by using Keycloak, and with the help of defining multiple DNS zone, and you can have single static web app or your single website or your single app services also. So this is all about this configuration or high level design for multi-tenancy UI web application. If you want that, I can integrate, I can create a video for the React integration, React code integration, then I can include next, I can publish the next video with the actual code of React, with the defining this middleware and defining reading this all configuration from the storage account, and will redirect to respective login. So this all can be done. If you like this video, then share your comment and let me know if you want actual practical lab with the integration of React app and middleware for this configuration, for this approach. Thank you very much for your time. See you in next video.